So this is episode 23 of Pulling Back the Curtain, the Michael Jordan episode. At some point we'll have to do a podcast just on my fascination with Air Jordans growing up and how I never got a pair. But we'll save that.
We're going to do a podcast with Michael Jordan.
We'll save that would be cool too. And with me I have Salem Giampietro. Close?
Close, pretty close.
Giampietro.
There you go. Got it.
And Tim Mitrovich. And we had, I'm not even going to go back. I don't know what it is about guests on this podcast, like their host, having ridiculously hard names, but we're all in the same. Gallarda, Dickerhoof. We had Melissa Murphy. Santangelo's not exactly a super easy one, although it's become household. So, yeah, you're in good company.
Yeah.
No more vowels to buy here, though.
Okay.
We've sold out long ago of all the vowels. But thanks for joining. Owner of Black Goat CrossFit.
Yep.
Competitor, an owner, an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yep. Mom and wife.
Mom, wife.
Student.
Mom to 3 boys, so that's
3
your
boys.
workout.
Yeah. That's the reason why.
Right
there.
That's your why. How old are your boys?
They are 10, 8, and 4.
Okay, so you're in the thick of it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, share with us a little bit of your story. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Arizona and small town called Cottonwood, right by Sedona.
Okay.
And 1 high school, 1 Home Depot, 1 Walmart. That's it.
You had some things,
yeah,
though.
I mean,
you at least had one.
There was some things.
All right.
So I grew up small town, loved sports. I did soccer, I did swimming. I kind of dabbled in some track, and I just love that team dynamic of working hard and chasing something. So that led to finding CrossFit. And I found that in my early 20s, and that I kind of lost a little bit of my love for fitness, and CrossFit kind of brought it back. I knew how to play sports and I knew how to train, but I had no idea how to exercise. So that's a transition in life, right? Usually you go to school and then you have to learn, if you want to be active, you have to learn how to exercise. And I just didn't know how to do that.
And adapt with age and unique. I think that's true. I talk about that a lot of time with the interns we'll have in, or students will come in and want to talk, and I'm like, just get ready for the transition. I mean, people so many times are glib and say, it's the real world, and maybe they're talking about jobs, but I think whether it's academic, athletic, fitness, so much they build the target, it's your job to hit the target, then you get out on your own, you're like, you got to build the target and hit the target.
Right.
And you don't have a lot of target building experience,
or
whether
maybe
it's
you
academic.
don't even know how to do it. You know, it's just different.
I don't even know how to set my own goal up. Right. Yeah. So you said you lost the passion there for a little while. What was that?
Yeah, it was just circumstantial. It was just, I was working. I went from being a student in sports, and then I graduated high school, and then I just started working full time. And I had always been on a team. I'd never done individual sports, and so I was just working. And to me, I could run and chase after a ball, but to me, to run a mile seemed torturous. Like, just why would I do that? So I ate all the donuts that I could eat and drank all the Red Bull that I could drink, and wondered why I didn't look like an athlete anymore.
Yeah, no, it happens. You get busy. So you found CrossFit. How'd you find it?
Yeah, so
was there that drive then to get back to what you wanted to do?
So I moved. I decided, okay, I want to be fit again, and the only way that I knew how to do that was to get back on a team. And so I walked onto a community college sports team and just thought, well, I guess I'll go to school, because now I can do this. I can be fit and I can be active. And so I did that for a year. And then in that process, I worked at a gym. I worked at a 24-hour fitness at their front desk, and I met their personal trainers. And then I moved from Arizona to here, and I just transferred to 24-hour fitness. And that's where I really, the trainers that I was working with, they were doing CrossFit, and it was like, nobody knew what it was then. It was.
Yeah, when did CrossFit really start to get big?
Probably in 2008, 2007 is when.
A decade.
Yeah, is when you could find it, like
CrossFit.com.
No, not for a couple years for that. But they would start putting out their workouts, and at first I resisted. I think everyone resists at the beginning. Someone said, come do CrossFit. And I said, well, what's that?
It's got that cultish flair to it.
Yeah. And they said, well, we're going to do double unders. And I said, well, what's that? And they said, you jump rope with two ropes passes with one jump. And I thought, that's stupid. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I resisted, and it became fun. Like, it just became a culture of, we were working out together and just re-enlightened that team dynamic that I loved and missed. And so then I was in.
Yeah. Well, it's everywhere. I can't, just got back from Seattle and was walking down the street, and I don't know that you can pass a street and not walk by like 6 gyms.
Yeah.
So what is it? There's obviously still an air of mystery around CrossFit. I think for a lot of people, maybe you have some of those stereotypes. They're the super hardcore fitness people, and of course they're great athletes. Rumors about how safe or dangerous it may be. Why don't you speak to some of those things just in terms of what you've found it to be for you? And then now obviously as an owner and coach, you're getting to see so many athletes come through.
Yeah. I think it can be something different to each person. And I think maybe it relates to what you do. People say the stock market or investing is unsafe or insecure, and you're just going to lose everything if you do it. And I think people could look at our sport the same way and say, you're going to get hurt.
It's all about shoulder
just
injuries.
Crazy. Yeah. It's, unmanaged. And, but I think if you go to a good gym with the good coaches who understand where you're at and understand why you're there, because I think that's also a key, is to know why is fitness important to you. Because somebody who's looking for vitality just to live 40 more years and feel great is going to be different than the person who wants to lose weight, is going to be different than the person who wants to perform and wants to compete in the sport. So I think you have to find a gym who can understand you and then can just progress you in the direction that you want to go.
So you started back at the community college, came up, got into the 24-hour fitness workout with the trainers. For you, it just started out as wanting to be fit?
Yeah, for me it was just fun. It was a fun way to work out and have fun.
So then what led into then you competed?
Yep. So
when did you cross that bridge?
Yeah, so I crossed that bridge and I had my first son in 2009. And then I was training. I was a coach at a CrossFit gym. And so just some people from that gym, that was the first, in 2008, was the first year of this thing called the CrossFit Games.
Okay.
And they had
2008 was the first year.
2008 or maybe
right.
2007, somewhere in there. And it just started itty bitty, like, hey, anyone who wants to come to California can come compete, and we're going to call it the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
And so then the next couple years, there was just some people in our gym who were pretty fit, and we just thought we wanted to throw down and just see what we could do. Yeah. And so 6 of us competed in Seattle at the fairgrounds on a dirt arena, and did this thing called CrossFit. And every year the sport grew, and every year the crowds grew and the venue grew, and just we went from being in dirt in an arena to being in the StubHub Center into being, so yeah, it was just fun to see. Very cool.
Well, I like I said, mostly old football injuries that ended my already pathetic jogging career once upon a time. Now I'm on the Peloton, as I seem to drop in every podcast. But I would actually tape and watch a lot of the CrossFit Games when I was on the treadmill, because I'm like, I'm not going to complain about trying to get my 3 miles in watching what these guys are trying to do,
Yeah.
But well, cool. So let's transition a little bit to your other hat that you're wearing amongst the 16, 17 that you've got on as a business owner. So maybe there's probably a few more steps between your competing, help close that gap, I guess, to then when you decide I need to have my own gym.
So there's a lot going on in life when you have young kids and you're training because you enjoy this competitive dynamic of this sport. And so I competed on a team for a couple years, and then we just kind of reached a point, the sport reached a point where really to compete you needed to be almost a full-time competitor. Like to have a balance of a job and a life and a mom kind of became very, very challenging and very difficult. So we just reached a point in our life as a family where being in the gym atmosphere and having that as a job was kind of like my escape job from being a parent, if that makes sense. Like that's where I could go.
I want to ask you some more questions about that, but keep going.
I mean, that's where I could go and walk into that space as a coach, and I didn't have to be a mom. I didn't have to deal with whining little kids. You know, I got to talk to adults and interact with friends. And so that was my reason for being a coach, was that escape. And so we got to a point
tell
where
people what to do and they would listen to you.
Tell people what to do and they do it.
And they do it.
Well, they cry maybe, but then they do it.
Still crying.
There's
still lots
crying.
of crying.
Yeah. But then we just reached a point where my youngest was 4, and I felt like just me as a human, I sensed an opportunity to grow, and I didn't know what direction that would go. Like maybe I should go to school and like pursue a career, or maybe I should, you know, just stay where I'm at and invest more time in house and home. Turns out I don't like to be domestic. It's not my strength. So I just thought, well, if I could do something, what do I like to do the most? And I love working with people, and I love seeing them grow. And in the world of CrossFit, that's kind of where I've seen the most impact in people's lives and where I've made the most kind of connections and friends. So it just was like, well, I need to try. Like I don't think it'll happen, but I just need to like take the first step and just try. And so I walked unannounced into a banker's office, and I just asked to sit down, and we sat down, and I said, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. Can we do it? And he was like, well, maybe. Like I've got to he's like, I think I like you. And I think you can do it, but I need more information. So more information was exchanged, and they said, okay, yes, we can give you these funds. And so then there's a match that has to happen between, you have to have a place and a space and financials, so that then you can take that to the bank and say, this is my space and this is my financials. And I didn't have a space. So we were looking everywhere, literally everywhere, just for, you know, there's certain things that need to happen. It needs to be a certain size and a certain budget and a certain nearness near people, or they're not going to come. And so I found this post on Craigslist, and I went and I met the guy, and we looked at this dirt lot, and he was like, I'm building this building and this space. And I said, okay, like, I think this will work. Let's do it. And so between that and meeting with the banker and putting everything together, and then it happened.
So you had this, we'll pause right there.
Pause.
I'm gonna rewind you back to, you're a mom. Obviously a lot of people listen to this podcast. I'm anecdotal feedback, friends, colleagues, they're, you know, business owners, they're professionals in their own right. They're struggling to find those balances, particularly hard for moms, I think, but hard for dads too. How did you walk through that? How did you personally, the guilt of, I mean, I know there's times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go down and do my workout for 45 minutes. And the thrill, like, I want to play with you. And like, we play a ton, don't get me wrong, but they take you 24/7, right? And you're like, no, I'm going to create a space and have that not feel guilty, or all of that, making time for it, your mindset around it. How did you strike those balances? Just
with like myself personally with fitness, or?
Yeah, we'll start there. Because you kind of said things started to ramp and seemed to have continued to ramp as you had kids and your kids grew, which is somewhat counterintuitive, right? Maybe. Yeah. But how did you balance all that stuff out?
I think just support. I think my husband always understood that was my outlet and my sanity space. And so for him to always understand and be supportive of that, like there was never any guilt from him, which I think is half of the guilt sometimes, if part of your dynamic doesn't get it, or it feels like you're taking a commodity away, whether it's time or money or energy, whatever it is. And so I think just the support from that was huge. And then the only reason why I could pursue this business is I knew that my fitness pursuit was also going to be decreasing because my competition phase had kind of ended, if that made sense.
Yeah.
So seeing one area kind of diminish, I could see me having time and energy for another area to grow. So I wouldn't say like it was all of a sudden, 80% plus 80% plus 80, like that doesn't work. But seeing something in my life come down enabled me to sense that I needed to grow something else.
Okay.
I had, another area. And so for me, fitness, I had young kids at home. So for me to take them to the gym and work out was a safe outlet for them. It was a good outlet for me.
So they'll come with you to the gym a lot?
Yeah.
How do you strike that balance too
Yes.
of like, mommy's working right now, mommy can't come do this?
Yeah. It's hard right now. And I think that's maybe the hardest part where I'm at right now, because I have to do a lot on the computer and a lot just talking to people.
Yeah.
And so right now that's the struggle, and we're figuring it out.
Or make sure Dayne doesn't blow his shoulder out, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes. Yeah. We got
own-
to take care of Dayne.
okay, so you've got this dirt lot. You're pulling all these half things out of existence into reality, which is so often the case for business owners, but it always is impressive to me nonetheless. If you don't mind, so let's stop there though, because in hindsight now you've got your gym, I know things are going well. Was any part of you afraid at that point, or thinking that like this is kind of crazy what I'm doing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, it was chasing an idea, and I never was like, this is gonna happen. Like, I know this is gonna happen. For me, I always assumed somebody would say no. Like, I always assumed, it just takes one no from somebody in the chain for things to stop. And so talking to, there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 different entities independent of each other that all have to approve of you and somehow. And there were lots of maybes. And even at one point, my realtor called me and said, like, everything was almost done. And he kind of just said, hold up. We have a problem with X, Y, and Z. I don't know if I can have you in my space. And at that point, you kind of, like, I just believe things happen for a reason. And I have faith that if something's meant to happen, God will orchestrate it to happen. And if it doesn't happen, that doesn't mean that anything was bad. It just means it's a new direction, and a new path to pursue. So I think for me, maybe that would stress some people out, that so much unknown or so much, uncertainty. But for me, I just figured it would happen and that'd be great, or it wouldn't happen and I'd have another path to follow.
Yeah, I know for me, I can even remember a distinct moment in time where I woke up pretty early one morning. Was in the midst of this devotional and was like, took that to be my sign to go. But and so there are definitely moments of doubt and fear. But for me, I'm curious if you found this the same way. It's not like those weren't there. I just focused more on what had to be done.
Right.
And so it was really just choosing to allot time and emotion, not deny the reality that there were fears and doubts and setbacks and struggles, but I didn't allow them to dominate my time or emotions.
Yeah.
Did you find that to be the case for you?
No, I think that idea of forward motion was a strong sense in every day. Like I didn't know the end result, but I knew I needed to move forward with my life. And I didn't know how that would end up 1 week or 1 month or 1 year, but I just, being faithful in that forward motion, I think was what you have to do.
Was there a part of you, at what point did you think, so I've heard so far, correct me if I'm wrong, is you needed this initially, you really wanted it for you. This was something you cared about. I mean, you liked CrossFit. I'm sure you thought about, you mentioned that it was something you could see impacting people's lives in a real positive way. At what point in this path did you start to realize that there would be competition for business and that you didn't necessarily have to be better, but you had to be unique to find, as they would say, like your tribe of people who are going to be there? When did that story, vision, narrative start to take shape of what is Black Goat CrossFit going to be?
Yeah, I think for me that was clear from the very beginning. Like, that's part of what our name is about. Like, we're Black Goat, not because that's just a cool name, but when we were choosing the name, it was important to me that our principles be involved from the get-go, like who we are, our impression on people. So we're about being you, being smart, working hard, playing harder, and then belonging to this community. So for me, my niche and my dynamic has always not been the strongly competitive, but people who want to increase value in their life. And in all of Spokane and Liberty Lake, there's probably 10 other gyms or affiliates or similar places to do what I do. But they don't do it how I do it. And for me, that's what I knew would be different. And I'm a mom. I understand families. I understand needing to work out when you have little ones. And I understand the value of having a space that values that entire process, not just one of those dynamics, you know? So I felt like I could offer something that wasn't already out there. And I wanted to do it in a way that was true to me and true to my values and true to my family. Like, the space needs to be a place that my family wants to be. Like, this isn't my space. Like, all of my kids come with me. There's a kid's space. They feel strong, and they feel, freedom to have an outlet themselves. It's not just for me only. So I think I will always pursue, and I'm sure you feel similar, like, you strive to be the best version of yourself and offer the best product that you know how to deliver, and that really has nothing to do with what other people are doing.
Yeah. No, it's true. The focus, I mean, I can't say I rise above that all the time as nobly as I would like to. I think I do a pretty good job, but I'm certainly at my most effective when I'm just focused on my own story.
Yeah, when you know your why and you're delivering
competing
on that.
Well, and it's you don't get to go onto a singular court with one ball and like battle it out. So, I mean, the whole idea, I mean, you're certainly competing in some sense, but ultimately, that success is going to be driven pretty independently, because, like I said, it's not like very few times someone's going to, I'm going to go try your CrossFit gym, and then I'm going to go try theirs and see which one I like better.
Well, and they do, though, and I love that they do that. Like, people walk into my door, and there's a gym half a mile down the road from me, and I tell them to go try it out because I want them in my gym because they want to be there.
And that was kind of when I chuckled at the end of my last comment. My innate drive is always like win, never win at all costs, in the sense of from cheating or ethics, whether that was Little League baseball to what I do now. But I think the part of me that is either tired or mature, I'll choose to say mature, is just like, I told the guys, I think this is true of what you do probably as well. We're in the job of explaining, not convincing. So you want to understand. We were talking a little bit about fitness and freedom in that, and financial freedom. And it's not like, yes, I can explain how to get there, but if it ever starts to border into I'm having to convince you to be in a relationship with me, or convince you to think, like, this probably isn't working. That doesn't mean I'm bad or you're bad. It just, maybe there's somebody else who's got to communicate that message. And that's shoving square pegs in round holes and being a convincer is something I spent a lot of years trying to perfect, to my own detriment. So I'm out of that biz now. I'm just in the explaining game. When it comes to the community, something, again, we were talking a little bit before this podcast started that's got me interested is, obviously with technology being what it is now, so many people are afraid that it's the end of people like you and I, right? People who are going to drive value-added services toward these freedoms, again, fitness or financial. There's mirrors now that you can buy that'll show you how to do moves. I always say I do have a Peloton bike, but I also work out with a personal trainer. I never want to talk too much about what I do or have, because people are like, shouldn't you be a lot fitter for all the, I should. It could be so much worse, apparently. When you do look at, like, I think one of the things that's made this firm successful is, yes, we're doing good work, but it's so much, all these things that we strive and mean so much to us as people, whether that's financial freedom, being fit, having good families, they're exceptionally emotional journeys. It isn't just about the move. It isn't just about the fund you pick. It isn't just about remembering to get a Valentine's card. Like, there's so much more to it. So many opportunities to want to quit and give up at anything in life all the time.
And so many failures or setbacks too.
That are inevitable, right? Yeah. So that's it. If you're going to just be access to something, I mean, at one point it was like, I'm just the guy or gal who has the weights, right? So if you want to come, now they're everywhere and you can buy them. They're relatively cheap, or now you can stream high quality instructors from wherever, doing whatever you want to do. But yet yoga studios, our firm is certainly growing fast in its own way, but we'll keep things in the fitness realm. Your gym's growing. CrossFit in general is growing. There's something that people want around this community idea of people, and you've referenced it a few times, of like, I wanted to be around this team. Tell me about your team, tell me about your community, tell me about how you foster that outside of, obviously you mentioned wanting it to be a safe, comfortable place for people to come. Yeah,
I mean, that's it, right? That's what sets us apart from, I mean, you can look online, you can go to blackgoatcrossfit.com, see the workout that we do, and do it at home. You don't need necessarily us to do the fitness side, but I think what you're missing, I mean, I do these workouts, and there's a reason why I don't work out alone, because I would sandbag and just go at a moderately comfortable pace, or I would do maybe half, because I'm tired and there's other things I need to do, other priorities that pop up, whatever it is. So to have an hour set aside in your day where I do classes. I do classes at my gym 90% of the time, because I want to show up. I want to have somebody tell me what to do. And then I want to do it with my friends next to me, who I don't want them to beat me. So maybe I'll work a little harder, And then at the end, it's that high five and that, hanging out with your buddy, drinking your water at the end, and you shared that experience. I think there's something to be said about sharing struggle next to somebody that gives you both, your walls come down. All of a sudden you're covered in sweat and I've got dirt on my face and my hair is like this, and we're no longer trying to be our best selves, like we're being our real selves. And all of a sudden now I'm telling you about my real life with my kids, and my real life with my marriage, and my real authentic life that I'm struggling with, and you're identifying, and all of a sudden we have a real relationship, and it's not just, how you doing? Great.
It's the line in Good Will Hunting where he's like, who are your best friends? And he's like, Kant, Nietzsche's. And he's like, well, you can't really have a relationship with them. They're all books. And he's like, well, not without some smelling salts. But yeah, it's a little bit different. You can't have that dynamic with a computer screen,
right?
A tablet, at least in the same way, for sure. So speaking of real life, how do you get the energy to do everything that you do? Are you tired? Do you ever have to nap?
I'm tired all the time. I love naps.
I feel like I should have more energy. I see. I'm like, maybe people are like, how does he get everything done? He's like, he must just have I'm like, no, I'm tired all the time.
Yeah, I love naps. Yeah, I love naps. I think because I love what I do, and when you love what you do, showing up isn't work. Showing up is a privilege. And I coach the 5 a.m. classes a couple days a week. And do I love getting out of bed? No. But do I love walking in the door and having those people come in and work out and engage with, and I love that. I love those people. So I think when you're motivated, and your motivation isn't just money, but it's value and self, when you're representing yourself, you want to put your best foot forward. And so.
I think that's the thing that I underestimated maybe in my own way, was just I think when you're, I don't know, again, I'd love to hear how you think through this, but there's always I'm very goal driven. very A-type in that way. So it's like, okay, what's next? And when you're younger, you're like, well, if I had this, and this kind of a set and established, then I'd just be like, chill.
Yeah, right. Then it'd be on autopilot.
And it isn't just, I think sometimes the misnomer, and again, speaking for myself and some of the questions I'll get, it's not that I want another thing. It's not like, oh, there's this thing that I want to go possess. But it is that, and not just me, there's obviously a lot of other great people who work here, but for my part in it, this firm represents me, and so that can never stop, because I never want to be embarrassed. And actually it finally made athletes made a little bit more sense to me in that way. I mean, some of them clearly cashed the check and quit, but for the people like, why are you still so emotional about this when you're worth $100 million? It's like, well, because I have $100 million and I don't want to get embarrassed the next time I go do whatever I'm gonna do. You've mentioned your husband. Does he come to the gym?
He makes an appearance. It's
he
not
sounds
his
like he's
thing.
got a fit.
It's not his thing.
So you guys have those set. So you bring the kids to the gym, and it's not a total family affair then.
Yeah, I mean, he'll show up on Saturdays. He'll do a workout on Saturdays, and then he loves mountain biking and skiing and rock climbing. So those are his. He's doing his thing. His pursuits. Whereas I love like the structure of. I don't love the fear of injury or dying or like adrenaline. I don't need that. I just want to work hard.
I went to my wife's yoga classes during what I call the woo period of our relationship, where I was trying to, and I need to get back into it. A way too tight of a human being. She always used to just ridicule me. She was an unsympathetic coach to me. Everyone else glowing. She'd be like, your calves are so tight, your heels don't even go down. But I need to get some of that back in. But yeah, I was curious just because how she and I like to work out, totally different as well.
Yeah.
Do you have a end game when you think about things? Do you have new goals for yourself, for the gym, for your team?
Yeah,
things you hope to add to the story?
There's always goal. I think it never ends. I don't know if that will ever end. The idea of attaining, like,
what's your new biggest one?
I think at first it was just getting through the first year, and November for us will be our first year.
That's big, yeah.
And so I'm learning what my capability is, what my capacity is, and so I'm learning, like, for me it's important, and I sometimes resent people who don't have to be a full-time mom and can just pursue a career, because I still need to be a mom most of my day. So, but that's coming, maybe. I don't think that will ever end, actually.
I don't think so. I had to come clean to some buddies at a lunch. We all get together for Christmas, and we had just had number 2, and they're like, how's it going? And they totally had that like mocking ridicule look on their face, like, you've got to have your head underwater.
Yeah.
And I said, this obviously is a joke, but it was God's honest truth too. Which is like, I said, I gotta apologize to you guys. I just didn't think you had your acts together. Because like when you don't have a kid, like you don't understand it. Like, you're tired, you just take that Saturday off. You do this, you sleep a little bit in. You need to work late, you work late, and everything's changed when those little guys and gals come on the scene. So,
yes. Yeah. No, I think for me, and I knew that I would need to grow on the business side. I love fitness and I love people, and I think that's why I chose this business. But I think for me, I've learned so much about business over the last year, and so for me, it's more growth in that area.
Yeah, because there's the whole actual running. There's one thing being the coach, the inspirational leader, and creating a great workout, but then you gotta pay bills and get your taxes in, and that whole side of things. Do you handle a lot of that yourself, or have you brought in a team around you?
I do have like an accountant who handles those, like, so I don't have to do that directly. But when I say business, I do mean that. I do mean the financial side, but I've understood that side a little bit with my husband's business. I have paid his taxes and done his payroll for him. But I think for me, it's more like what is the brand of Black Goat CrossFit about, and what are goals for me 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Like, what does business independence look like, and what does that, just setting a vision versus just an idea of this is what I love to do every day, but more of a vision of what in the future is going to be, a success for.
Yeah. I'm not sure I got the whole story. What the story behind the name Black Goat? Where'd you get Black Goat? Is this like a really mean black sheep that didn't fit in?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like so when you name a gym, Black Goat was not maybe my first idea, but you can't have a name that's been used by another gym, which there's 20,000 gyms worldwide. So the list becomes really
any
short.
Type of gym. Really.
Well, it needs to be an affiliate of CrossFit. So and you can't use the same name or a version of someone else's name.
There's 20,000 CrossFit gyms.
Probably
in the
close.
world?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you start Googling like your first 10 ideas and they're they're all out there. So I went back to the principles and kind of the idea of black sheep, but in CrossFit, a goat is something that you're bad at. Like if you say you need to work on your goat today, like we would say that would be the thing that you struggle with or you want to avoid or you're just not good. So GOAT has that aspect in CrossFit. And then the acronym for GOAT is greatest of all time. So I like the idea of being unique and having from the beginning, like being free to pursue our version of fitness and our version of culture. And then from there, just being the best that we can every day.
Cool. No, that's great. Did I miss anything between your realtor says, I don't think this can happen, and then you actually get a gym?
No, I mean, there was time, there was process, and just a lot of waiting, like a lot of waiting and just boring things, getting your ducks in a row. Spokane has some really awesome programs. Like I think I probably talked to at least 4 different startup assistant things in Spokane, and they are really the things that leading me to who I needed to talk to. You just start the conversation and they give you to someone else and they give you to someone else until finally like you've talked to enough people to figure out where you need to go and who to talk to. And
very cool. How are we doing on time?
37.
So Matt, you got a couple minutes. I have 2 questions I like to ask people.
Okay.
If you're so willing, you never have to say anything you don't want to say, of course.
Well, you have. I've told you before we get there.
Okay.
I've told you all about Black Goat.
You want to know a little bit
I
want to
know, like, what's the vision? No, what's the vision of 10 Capital?
Okay. Well, we'll go there because I want to end with you.
All right.
No, keeping things about you. I think it's that it's in a world that is quickly becoming commoditized. It's not being afraid of that, but realizing that actually is making things, I think, as they should be. I mean, if it's something simple that really can be done cheaply and inexpensively and easily, then that should be done by a computer. When it comes to things like relationships and where you can add value, that's where you need that human engagement. So that's the challenge to the group always here is, there's the robo advisors and all this stuff. And we haven't, our growth has not only not stopped, it's continuing to accelerate. And I think it's because people want someone, and you've alluded to this throughout your thing, that's why I think the parallels are so tight, to walk that journey with them. As I heard someone say, when the consequences of being wrong or the time to make it right get significant enough, people want somebody else. And I think that's just really well put and can apply again, whether that's fitness or finance. It's like, you don't want to do something and blow an ACL. You don't want to do something and set back your retirement by 10 years. The issue is most people aren't very good. I mean, there's a ton of people working at gyms who know less than I did in high school from just working out with the football team a little bit. There's plenty of people and financial advisors who learned how to sell products that don't know what they're selling or why they're selling it or how to map a big plan. And so, for us, it's always been extremely relational. I think to some degree, that caps our growth at some point. I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near that in the sense that you can't be some huge multinational corporation and have that sense of community that I think is really what sets us apart. And so, we talk about that of just being very smart with our growth, but it's really that, just let's build the right team that has that mindset, the right processes that can support it. And again, not any kind of an arbitrary end date, but always keep in mind that what we're trying to map to is being a good partner to people to walk alongside of them. I made this reference, but it's true. So the 10 of 10 capital is my grandfather's high school jersey number, and I've told this story maybe on the podcast before, I don't know, of when I was asking him, do you consider yourself to have been a success? This is in his last days of his life, and he kind of caught him off guard. I didn't ask a lot of questions like that because I wish it's a regret I have that I should have asked more questions that kind of belied mortality, because we're all mortal. But you didn't want to go there, right? Like,
right.
I'm going to pretend you're going to live forever, Grandpa. But I did ask him that question one day, and I'm so glad I did. For one, he's like, yeah. And I said, all right, why? And he's like, I've got 3 reasons, I think, that jumped to mind. And I was like, what's that? He's like, well, my wife of 64 years is upstairs. He's like, I'm pretty proud of that. And he said, my grandson's sitting here talking to me. So he's like, I'd like to think I was a good dad and granddad. And he goes, and then a friend of his, who's younger, is coming to pick me up to go walk the Valley Mall and grab a cup of coffee. And he unpacked a little bit. He just said, and again, I'm weaving some stories from another time, or the things he was alluding to, but he just never took shortcuts. He's like, there's a lot of business deals I could have got included in, but I wasn't sure how they'd be perceived. They were totally legal, so I just didn't. I always wanted to be above reproach. He spent a lot of time mentoring people, and this person that was coming to pick him up was someone he could mentor, but he couldn't, as he would say, he's like, I can't do anything for anyone anymore. I'm 90 years old. And yet here this person was, because of what he had meant to them, still willing to come pick him up. And I thought, when you really start to look at your life of how many people would go out of their way if there really honestly wasn't anything that you could do for them, it's probably a frighteningly short list. It gets really small. Yeah. And that was really impactful. And I really, again, over time, since that conversation continued to unpack it, of like, that kind of becomes that, Northern Star or whatever you want to talk about that you map to. It's like, I don't know all the decisions I'll have to make between here and wherever, but I do know if I'm making them in such a way that more times than not I'm treating them as though they might be someone who would come pick me up for coffee when I'm 90, I'm closer than just living for the now. Right. So I think that we try to imbue, and it's general, but again, I think those, when you're dealing with lives, like, it's hard to say like, oh, when this happens, you do this. When this happens, because there's so many different permutations. Yeah. They're really creating those, and markets the same way, creating those philosophies that are going to guide you, is where we spend a lot more of our time and attention here. I won't get into analytics, but of how we do our business, just because I think that ultimately gets us closer to where we wanted to be than getting too myopic in a singular decision in a singular moment. So that's us. Yeah. No, I think you have, like, whatever your business is, whether it's fitness or money, I think if you lose sight of the people, then you've lost. Well, and how sympathetic it is. I mean, when someone comes to you, or a lot of other people, a doctor, when it comes to health and money, pastor, someone walking into the pastor's office, I mean, there's only a few things, like, it means a lot to them. I mean, it just does. You're already on place where you can do meaningful work, but you're on, I wouldn't call it dangerous ground, but kind of. I mean, you need to take it serious. And it's sad to me, I think, certainly in my line of work, which is, industry that's brought a lot of black eyes on itself, but I think it's true of everyone that's been taken advantage of by any person. Just that when people betray that trust, but it's a great opportunity for the rest of us. So, my 2 questions for you, if you're so willing. I'd like to know about a failure you had, something that was like really not good. I mean, in the sense of, something that meant to you, whether you got cut from a team, whether you wanted that job that you didn't get, whether you got told no for a loan that you wanted to have. But the whole idea of here is like, whatever that was, and if you don't want to go into tons of details about the moment, I'm curious, like, what types of things do you do to start to put the blocks back up and build the wall back up when you've gotten knocked down? Yeah. Well, I feel like I fail every day. I'm a parent, so
I think if you ever feel like you're good at that, let me know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's hard every day.
No, it makes you, I've said the other day, it's like being a parent is the most manic inspiring thing I've ever done. Like, one minute it's the greatest moment you've ever had in your life. The next minute you're like, why do I ever have kids? You know, oh yeah, it's crazy time.
Yeah.
I'm spoiling them. I'm being too hard on them. I mean, there's no middle.
Yeah.
No middle.
Let me think. I have to think here for a second. I can't think. I mean, I guess when I face a failure, which there's been plenty, I don't always get what I'm after. I don't always get what I want. But, okay, here's an example, maybe. I don't know if it's a failure. I grew up with my mom, and my mom was really sick when I was young. And in and out of the hospital, all through grade school, it was like, we don't know if your mom's going to make it. So fast forward, she did, but she got cancer, and she passed away in 2012. So losing her was my greatest fear as a child. Like, when you're little, you need your mom for everything. Like, your mom is your source of comfort and your source of strength and all of these things. And through God's grace, like, she got to meet her grandchildren, and she was at my wedding, and all these things I didn't know I would have. But in 2012, and she got cancer, and she passed away within 4 months. Like, it was really fast. And I think going through that experience with her, they moved up here for the last 2 months of her life, and she was never afraid of dying, and she knew she was dying. And her greatest, like, she would be sad about missing us or missing to see her grandchildren grow up, but she never once felt sorry for herself, and she never once was afraid of that experience.
She tell you how she had that strength? Or mindset?
I think for her, she had faced it so many times. We had all faced it as a family, like, so many times, not knowing if she would survive or, pass away. And so we all knew it would come, and we just didn't know when. And so for me, like, now when I look back and when I think of being afraid or I want to be a strong person, like, that changed my definition of strength. Because, like, literally the last 2 months of her life, like, she was physically very frail, but she was the strongest person I'd ever known because she wasn't afraid. And so when I now sense fear, or when I would maybe choose to avoid something because of fear, like, that to me is strength. And so that's what I try to walk in my daily life, of not being intimidated or letting fear rule my decisions, but rather, like, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And that kind of, I think, sparked this whole, like, business venture. Is there's so many fears, so many unknowns, but at the end of the day, that's what you have to live with, is your choices, and you can choose to, step up and try and fail.
Yeah.
But what if you didn't fail? Like, what if you weren't afraid?
Yeah.
What would happen?
Well, and you touched a little bit, I think, there too. Just part of it becomes the experience with all the setbacks, whether that's momentary fears about a bad doctor's visit with your mom, or just failures or setbacks or losses or whatever they like in its own, tough way. It's just experience with the unpleasant somehow, deadens it and frees you up to go chase all the cool stuff.
I think when you walk through your greatest fear and realize you're stronger for it, or realize, how you grew from it, I think you are less afraid of other fears.
Totally. So last thing you're most looking forward to at this moment, like, what's got you excited right now? Whether it's a cool trip coming up, whether it's a new thing, event you're doing at the gym, whatever it is, thing that you and your husband are talking about, and like, man, I can't wait for this. Yeah,
I think just getting past that first initial phase of I don't know anything about anything. Like, we're in our first year, so I don't know what each season looks like. I don't know what this looks like. I have no idea. So I'm really excited for this next year.
Year two
of just like growing and learning learning from things that we didn't do well, things that we can do better. And I think we know more of who we are, and we know more what we're about, and we know more of who our culture and community is. Just they've come in. And so I'm excited to grow as a business and learn. I think that's the thing that surprised me the most about this process, is how much I love to learn about that whole new realm that I knew like this much about. So
cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to grow and learn and
awesome.
See how it goes.
So real quick, walk me through, someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're like, she seems super awesome. I want to go work out at Black Goat CrossFit.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I need to have $20 cash when I walk in the door. I don't know what kind of clothes I'm supposed to wear. Right? I mean,
Right.
that new thing.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's a diehard CrossFitter that's like, this is just my brand of CrossFit. But where are you at? Well, let's get through.
So we're in Liberty
where are people
Lake.
going to find you?
We are located in Liberty Lake, Washington.
Okay.
And it's a small town, but we are north on Moulter. So follow Moulter North.
Your website is?
blackgoatcrossfit.com.
Okay, so you can get their address there.
Yeah, address is there.
Is there Instagram,
Class times
Facebook
are on there. There's
to find
Instagram,
you?
there's Facebook.
All Black Goat
All the
CrossFit.
things.
You
All
got
Black
them all.
Goat
You didn't
CrossFit.
have to underscore
No,
and do a
they're
bunch of
all-
hashtags. Okay.
They're all Black Goat CrossFit.
So if somebody wants to show up day one, what do they need to know?
Day one. So there's a couple ways you could show up. You could just show up to, like, we call it a no sweat intro. Like, I don't want to work out. You might kill me, but I do want to see a little bit about what you do, see your space, get a vibe, and then feel free to leave. So that was option A, and just come visit us and
they can
see
just
what
walk
we do.
in and
you can
say,
just walk in and
"Hey,"
sweat
or
in your jeans.
give you
can
a
walk
call
in
ahead.
your work boots and your button-up shirt. Yep, just to like see. And then maybe you'll come back for a workout, and that's always free. Like, your first workout is always free.
Okay.
Just, we want you to know you want to be here.
Yeah.
And then from there, we want you to start out with what we call our launch. That's 3 one-on-ones with a coach, plus all of your first month of classes.
Cool.
And then from there, you decide, you in, are you out?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.